Hi there, everyone. I'm Jim Cummings. I'm Associate Faculty in the Division of Emerging Media Studies. I'm very short, so you can't see much of me, and I'm going to do something I hate doing, which is reading, so you're going to see the top of my head a bit more than I like as well. But I'd like to talk to you a bit today, very, very quickly, the lightning talk about a project that some colleagues and I are working on, which is basically using LLMs to generate AI personas for looking at the ability to predict, generalize, to predict, generalize, and replicate research findings in media science. Some context. Research on the effectiveness of media messages has become increasingly difficult. Historically, the biggest challenges were logistical. Getting representative samples of stimuli, representative samples of people, managing data, managing privacy. But more recently, we have foundational issues coming up, like the replication crisis, vis-a-vis where many established findings in social science can't be reproduced. And then the lesser discussed generalizability crisis, the extent to which we have findings that only hold for very particular stimuli, very particular situations, very particular groups of people. And these issues have led scholars to look for new solutions, some looking at LLMs, particularly given recent successes in leveraging LLMs for hypothesis generation, literature review, and particularly relevant here, the idea of replicating psychology experiments based upon very simple language stimuli. Our team then wondered, could LLMs similarly be used to replicate more complex studies with more complex stimuli related to media messages? And in so doing, potentially offer some solutions or guidance for addressing these concerns of generalizability and replication. To test this, we sampled 66 recent papers from the Journal of Marketing, selected 45 experiments therein that had enough details for us to recreate. These experiments manipulated things like product packaging imagery, the tone of charity appeals, customer service messages, and then looked at outcome measures related to things like purchase intention, donation likelihood, and perceptions about the credibility or authenticity of a brand. For a given study, well, in this case, we recreated all of these studies using the Viewpoints AI research tool, which is designed to test AI responses to multimodal media messages. In a given study, basically, the researcher dumps in, for lack of a more elegant term, all of the stimuli they're interested in, sets up the experimental conditions, creates a desired sample in terms of the number of virtual participants, different attributes, and the relative distributions of those attributes, and then sets up the associated self-report questionnaires. The tool then generates virtual personas, each one a unique instantiation of an LLM. So not just asking the same one again over and over and over, based upon the distributions of the samples put together. Those LLMs then in turn provide data. We computed their scores and we compared it to the original findings. And what we found is that overall the AI personas replicated 76% of the main effects found with humans in terms of the directions and the significance of the original human findings. We also observed that the effects were, with smaller p-values and greater effect sizes, were more likely to replicate, upwards of 88%. These results suggest that LLMs may reliably replicate some findings from fairly complex stimulus response media messaging scenarios and offer some promise for addressing the replication crisis. Beyond replication, the sheer efficiency with which you can do this sort of research, run studies, revise the parameters, and rerun them very quickly, offers some promise for addressing concerns related to generalizability. For instance, for reference, in our case, we generated 20,000 custom personas in the course of a couple hours for tens of dollars to recreate and replicate those studies. What this also allows people to do is quickly navigate back and forth through inductive and deductive modes of inquiry, which is very helpful for scholarly theory development as well as A/B testing in industry. In terms of next steps, what I'll quickly note is that we want to look at ground truth evaluations, looking to more actual open source models such that we can evaluate more precisely in cases where studies don't replicate, is that an issue of the technological limitations of the AI or validity limitations of human subjects' self-report data. Additionally, we also want to look at forecasting. So not just replicating, but running studies ahead of time and seeing how those predictive responses correspond with what humans do later on in the future. Thank you.